Story Corner, presented by Jennifer. The Cat Who, Book 1, The Cat Who Could Read Backwards. Chapter 6, Part 2. Qwuilleran spent the rest of the weekend anticipating his Monday lunch date with Sandra Halplay. He was circumventing the problem of interviewing her husband by writing a profile of Cal Halplay through the eyes of his family and friends. Sandy was going to steer him to the right people, and she had promised to bring candid snapshots of her husband teaching the children to ski, feeding turkeys on the Oregon farm, and training a Carrie Blue to sit up. All day Sunday, Qwuilleran felt that his mustache was transmitting messages to him. Or perhaps it needed clipping. Just the same, its owner sensed that the coming week would be significant. Whether significantly good or significantly bad, the informed source did not reveal. Monday morning arrived, and with it came an unexpected communication from upstairs. Qwuilleran was dressing and selecting a tie that Sandy might approve, a navy and green wool tartan made in Scotland, when he first noticed the folded paper on the floor, half pushed under the door. He picked it up. The handwriting was poor, like a child's scrawl. The message was terse and abbreviated. Mr. Q, please deliver tapes to RAR. Save mess and a trip. GMB. Qwuilleran had not seen his landlord since Friday evening. At that time, he had moved his 2 suitcases from the hotel to the apartment and had paid a month's rent. A vague hope that Mount Clemens would invite him to Sunday breakfast, perhaps eggs Benedict or chicken liver omelets, had evaporated. It appeared that only the cat was going to be sociable. After deciphering the note, Qwuilleran opened the door and found the reels of tapes waiting for him on the hall floor. He delivered them to Art Riker, but he thought of the request strange and unnecessary. The dispatch room at the Fluxion had a bench full of messengers who sat around pinching pennies most of the time. Art said, "Making any headway in the Hellplay profile?" "I'm talking to taking Miss Hellplay to lunch today. Will the Flux be willing to pick up the check?" "Sure, they'll go for a couple of bucks." "Where's a good place to take her? Somewhere special." "Why don't you ask the hungry photographers? They're always getting people to buy on expense accounts." In the photo lab, Qwuilleran found 6 pairs of feet propped up on desks, tables, wastebaskets, and file cabinets, waiting for assignments, or waiting for prints to come off the dryer, or waiting for the darkroom buzzer. Qwuilleran said, "Where's a good place to take someone for lunch for an interview?" "Who's paying?" "The Flux." "Sit in Bull's Chop House," the photographer said in union. "The chopped sirloin weighs a pound," one said. "The cheesecake is 4 inches thick. They have double lamb chops as big as my shoes." It sounded good to Qwuilleran. Sitting Bull's Chop House was located in the packing house district. A characteristic odor seeped into the dining room to compete with the cigar smoke. "Oh, what a fun place!" Sandy Hellplay squealed. "How clever of you to bring me here. So many men. I adore men." The men adored Sandy, too. Her red hat topped with a proud black-tailed rooster was the center of attention. She ordered oysters, which the chop house could not supply, so she contented herself with champagne. But with each sip, her laughter grew more shrill, rebounding from the antiseptic white tile walls of the restaurant, and the enthusiasm of her audience dwindled. "Jim, dear, you must fly down to the Caribbean with me when Cal goes to Europe next week. I'll have the plane all to myself. Won't it be fun?" But she had forgotten to bring the information Qwuilleran needed, and the snapshots of her husband were unusable. The lamb chop was indeed as big as a photographer's shoe, and as flavorful. The waitresses, uniformed like registered nurses, were more efficient than cordial. The luncheon was not a success. Back in the office that afternoon, Qwuilleran had to listen to the telephone complaints about Mount Clemens' reviews in Sunday's paper. The critic had called a watercolorist a funeralistic interior designer, and the watercolorist's friends and relatives were calling to cascade the Daily Fluxion and cancel their subscriptions. Although Monday was not a Haken day for Qwuilleran, altogether Monday was not a Helcrin day for Qwuilleran. At the end of the tedious afternoon, he fled to the press club for dinner, and Bruno, setting up a tomato juice, said, "I hear you're moved in with Mount Clemens." "I've rented one of his vacant apartments," Qwuilleran snapped. "Anything wrong with that?" "Not until he starts pushing you around, I guess." Then Odd Bernstein stopped long enough to give the newsman an informative grin and say, "I hear Monty's got you running errands for him already." When Quill returned home to 26 Benham Palace, he was in no mood for what he found. There was another note under his door. "Mr. Q," it read. "Appreciate pickup plane ticket. Reserved wed 3 p.m. NY. Charge my account. GMB." Qwuilleran's mustache bristled. It was true that the airline office was across the street from the Daily Fluxion building, and picking up a plane ticket was a small favor for his landlord to ask in return for a good dinner. What irked him was the abruptness of the request. Or was it in order? Did Mount Clemens think he was Qwuilleran's boss? Tomorrow was Tuesday. The plane reservation was for Wednesday. There was no time to make an issue of it, so Qwuilleran grumbled to himself and picked up the ticket the following morning on his way to work. Later in the day, Odd Bernstein met him at the elevator saying, "Going away somewhere?" "No, what?" "Saw you going in the airplane office." "Thought you were skipping town." He added a taunt grin. "Don't tell me you're running errands for Monty again." Qwuilleran groomed his mustache with his knuckles and tried to reflect calmly that curiosity and a keen sense of observation made a good news photographer. When he arrived home that evening, the third note was waiting under his door. It was more to his liking. Mr. Q, please breakfast with me Wednesday, 8:30 GMB. Wednesday morning, Qwuilleran went upstairs with the plane ticket and knocked on Mount Clement's door. Good morning, Mr. Qwuilleran. The critic extended a thin white hand, his left. I hope you are not in a hurry. I have a rimstick of eggs with herb and sour cream ready to put in the oven, if you can wait, and some chicken livers and bacon and brocha. For that I can wait, said Qwuilleran. The table is set in the kitchen, and we can have a compote of fresh pineapple while we keep an eye on the broiler. I was fortunate enough to find a female pineapple at the market. The critic was wearing silk trousers and a short oriental coat tied with a sash around his remarkably thin midriff. There was a scent of lime peel. His thronged sandals slapped as he led the way down the long hallway to the kitchen. The walls of the corridor were completely covered with tapestries, scrolls, and framed pictures. Qwuilleran remarked about the quantity. Also quality, Mount Clemens said, tapping a group of drawings as he walked past them. Rembrandt, Holbein, very fine. Millet. The kitchen was large, with 3 tall, narrow windows. Bamboo blinds kept the light subdued, but Qwuilleran peered through them and saw an exterior stairway, evidently a fire escape, leading down a brick-walled patio. The alley beyond the high wall. He could see the top of a station wagon. Is that your car? That grotesquerie, Mount Clement said with an implied shudder, belongs to the junk dealer across the alley. If I keep a car, it would have some fancy design. A Carmenglai or a Reportorial. As it is, I dissipate my fortune in taxicabs. The kitchen had a mellow clutter of antiques, copper utensils, and a clump of dry vegetation. I dry my own herbs, Mount Clemens explained. Do you appreciate a little mint martini with pineapple? I think it gives the fruit another dimension. Pineapple can be a little too direct. I grow the mint in a pot on the window sill, chiefly for Koko. His idea of choice plaything is a bouquet of dried mint leaves tied in the toe of a sock. In a moment of rare wit, we have named his toy Minty Mouse. A rather free abstract of a mouse, but that is sort of the thing that appeals to his artistic intellect. Mount Clemens was putting individual baking dishes in the oven one at a time, using his left hand. Where is Koko this morning? Qwuilleran asked. You should be able to feel his gaze. He is watching you from the top of the refrigerator. The only down-cushioned refrigerator west of Hudson River. It is his bed. He refuses to sleep anywhere else. The aroma of bacon, herbs, and coffee was beginning to swirl about the kitchen, and Koko, on a blue cushion that matched his eyes, raised his nose to sniff. So did Qwuilleran. He said, What do you do about the cat when you go to New York? That is the problem, the critic said. He requires a certain amount of attention. Would it be an imposition if I were to ask you to prepare his meals while I was away? I'll be gone for less than a week. He takes only 2 meals a day, and his diet is simple. There is raw beef in the refrigerator. You merely carve it in small pieces the size of a lima bean, put it in a pan with a little broth, and warm it gently. A dash of salt and a sprinkle of sage or thyme will be appreciated. Whoa, Qwuilleran said, spooning up the last of the mint pineapple juice. To make it easier for you in the mornings, when you head out to the office, he could have a slice of pâté de la maison for breakfast instead of beef. It makes a welcome change for him. Would you like coffee now or later? Later, Qwuilleran said. No, I'll take it now. And then there is the matter of his commode. What's that? His commode. You'll find it in the bathroom. It needs very little attention. He is an immaculate cat. You will find the stand for the commode in the Chinese tea chest at the foot of the bathtub. Do you take cream or sugar? Black. If the weather is not too inclement, he can take a little exercise in the patio, provided you accompany him. Normally, he gets sufficient exercise running up and down the front stairs. I leave my apartment door ajar for his comings and goings. To be on the safe side, I shall also give you a key. Is there anything I can do for you in New York? Qwuilleran had just experienced the first forkful of chicken liver rolls rolled in bacon and seasoned with a touch of basil, and he rolled his eyes gratefully heavenward. In doing so, he caught the gaze of Koko, perched on the refrigerator. The cat slowly and deliberately